Hey, y'all need a break? Listen to these stories from r/entitled parents. My parents threw fake money at me when I exposed their blatant theft to the rest of the family. This happened in 2015. I was 18 and about to move out on my own. Prior to this, I had a savings account my parents had helped me set up. And I'd been putting money into it any way I could for 3 years. Birthday money, odd jobs, part-time after-school job washing dishes, all that stuff. And I'd managed to get a few thousand into it. I'd really been wanting to move out because I have 2 little brothers that absolutely drive me up the wall. My parents loved making me the live-in babysitter whenever I wasn't working. Which is why I used the excuse to work as much as I could. When the time came that I wanted to move out, my parents said they wanted me to stay because they needed my help. And were wanting me to start paying rent to help with bills. But I held my ground that I wanted to live on my own. I'd already paid the deposit and first month's rent on an apartment without telling them. And by that point I had a local full-time job. So I was set to move out after about another month. So when they found that out, they freaked and told me to get out that day if I wanted to be on my own so bad. I packed what I could and left to go to my aunt and uncle's house. It was a 4-mile ride with a bicycle that I had a small trailer hooked to. When I told my aunt and uncle what happened, they were very angry, and took me in right away. A couple days later I went to withdraw all the money from my account and saw that it was empty. My parents had come in the day prior and cleaned it out. All the bank could do was give me a balance statement saying so. Because my parents were co-signers on the account, that meant they had access to the money too. I was livid, and immediately told my aunt and uncle as soon as I could. They were beyond angry too. Then my aunt got an idea and started calling up other people in the family to tell them what my parents had done. It wasn't long before the crap had hit the fan. My other aunts and uncles, cousins and grandparents were all furious and let my parents have it. I don't know what kind of excuses my parents gave them. But it didn't work. The next time I saw my parents, they showed up to my aunt and uncle's house to yell at me. When they saw me, my mother threw some money at me and called me an ungrateful brat for telling everyone. My aunt then said it was her who told everyone, not me. I looked at the money they'd thrown, and it was just some kid play money my little brothers had. I asked where the real money was. And my parents said they'd already used it to pay off a credit card. I said I wanted the money they stole back for real. But they refused and said it was their right to take it since they'd opened the account for me and I still have a job. My expenses at the moment were fine because my next paycheck was deposited in a new account. And I was able to save until the apartment was ready. But my parents took a lot of heat from my aunt and uncle until they left. My cousin also used to babysit for my parents when I was busy. And she not only refused to do so again after what they did, but told me she put out the word to other teen babysitters on social media to avoid my parents because they were thieves. By the time I was living in my apartment, my parents finally couldn't take the social stigma anymore and met me to compromise. They said they couldn't pay me back all at once. And asked for a payment plan. I had the exact number of the amount they'd stolen and said I wanted it all back. They actually tried to haggle me down to half the total. But I refused to anything but the full amount. They reluctantly agreed and gave me $200 a month in cash for 2 years before it was all paid back. Now I barely ever see my parents, let alone speak to them. And they clearly still blame me for what happened too, because their reputations in the family never recovered. But I don't care. They were thieves that paid the piper. My EM got upset with me for not giving her enough attention at my husband's memorial. She ended up calling the police on me. My husband passed away unexpectedly last month. It's honestly the worst thing I've ever had to go through. I'm now a single mom to children aged between 2 and 20. 2 days after my husband passed, she came by, but brought her 3 dogs with her, knowing that one of her dogs isn't friendly with children, and knowing I also have animals. We had my husband's memorial at a local park where we had been married. I struggled to hold it together, and besides brief hellos, I only spoke to those helping set up, and then I gave my speech. I approached my EM when I saw she had arrived, said hi and let her know my brother, who's no contact with her, was there. Later I noticed she was gone without even saying goodbye. A few days later my 20-year-old, he is my stepson who EM has never paid any attention to before, gets a message from her asking him to come stay the week to paint her house. I spoke to Mr. 20 and my other children's therapists who all agree it's too soon after losing their father for their brother who lives with us to be gone for a week. A few of my younger children are autistic. Later that night I called EM to chat about it and she says, "It's been 3 weeks, you need to get over it." With that I saw red. I let loose and tell her I'll never be over it. I then threw at her that I noticed that she couldn't be bothered to say goodbye at the memorial, to which she then had a go at me for having my brother there, as it made her uncomfortable. I reminded her that that day wasn't about her. I let loose on a lot that phone call. In the end I hung up the phone. The next morning I got a call from the police saying that EM had called them and told them that I was trying to end my life. I was lucky as I had spoken to the same officer only 2 days prior, and she told me she got the impression that I'd reach out for help if needed, which is why she chose to call instead of a home visit, which given my past history, which EM knows about, they would have taken me to hospital as precaution. I've now gone no contact with EM. I fully believe, knowing her, that she only invited my son over as she knows he has been one of my biggest supports, as retaliation for not giving her enough attention at the memorial. After I went no contact, I found out that she told my other stepson that she only came because it would have looked bad on her if she didn't. Others also told me she kept yelling at my brother and complaining that I wasn't leaning on her for support. I'm so glad I've gone no contact. Taking her, a-hole, children to court. I, 22 female, my older brother, 23 male, and our oldest sister, 31 female, are being taken to court by our birth giver. This all started back in October of 2021. Our father, who we'll just call Dad, reached out and told us that he was diagnosed with cancer, which obviously devastated us. Our mother, who we'll call Crunt, found out through one of our siblings that we no longer associate with, constant lying, animal abuse, etc. Long story. My older brother, who we'll just call Bro, found out he went to her house to tell our younger brother, 18 male, we'll call him Buddy. Dad called Buddy and told him what was going on while Bro and Crunt were there. Crunt started throwing a fit. For a little while Dad was okay, still able to do his usual housework, take care of our brother, 18 male, we'll call him Baby, with cerebral palsy, and had started immunotherapy. Things were alright. When December came around, Dad wasn't doing good. He went in for a round of radiation, and came home and was throwing up and dry heaving with no signs of stopping. Baby's nurse told Dad that she needed someone to come to the house that would be physically able to take care of Baby, otherwise she'd have to place him into a nursing facility. Dad called Bro, who messaged me and Sis, telling us what was going on. I didn't have to work that day, and considering Sis has kids and Bro had to work, I said I'd go up there to do it. I figured this would be short term, and boy was I wrong. I've been there for a week now, when Dad and I are awake, having a 1 a.m. conversation. Dad, honey, I don't know that I'm going to make it through this weekend. Me, Dad, what are you talking about? Dad, I can see how much muscle mass I'm losing, and considering I can't even get out of bed on my own or use the bathroom myself, I think I need to go to a hospital. I don't want to lay here in my bed and die. Me, starts freaking out, trying to figure out what to do because I have osteoarthritis in most of my joints, and no, I couldn't take care of Baby long term. Dad, call Bro and Sis, I'll tell them what's going on, and I'll wait for them to get here before we call an ambulance to come get me. Me, crying and calling my siblings to get them there at 3 a.m. My siblings show up, we sit with our dad until he's ready to go. Bro and I decide that since we are the two most readily available, we'll alternate taking care of Baby. Sis says she'll help take care of Baby's paperwork and help Dad make up a living will and power of attorney. All agree to not tell Crunt about it because she attempted to prevent Dad from getting guardianship of Baby prior. Parents have been officially divorced since 2009, she hasn't seen or interacted with Baby in 12 years. We as siblings have taken care of Baby with the carefully written instructions provided by our dad and with the help of his home health nurses. Q early January. Crunt is pissed that I didn't show up for Christmas at her house. I was taking care of Baby, and had less Christmas plans than my siblings, so I didn't mind. 3 of our sit down and decide that sooner or later we will have to tell Crunt about what we've been doing cause she's starting to get suspicious. Bro says he'll tell her, cause he isn't afraid to go toe-to-toe with her. Sis and I both tell him to call us when he tells her so we can all talk about it together. Bro goes over to Crunt's house at 3 a.m. and tells her everything alone. Cue the narcissistic behavior. Crunt sends a message in a Facebook group chat to me, my boyfriend, Bro, Bro's fiancé, Sis, and Sis's husband. She tells all of us that we're so deceitful, and she never raised us to be such terrible people, as well as she's Baby's mom and that she can't believe we'd make decisions for her child without consulting her. Sis steps in and tells her that not only has she not made a decision for Baby in years, but we were raised to step up and take care of our family when in need. Sis proceeded to call out all of her abusive behavior in regards to not only the 3 of us, but also Buddy and her 2 kids. Crunt basically says none of it happened that way, and brought up her 3 strokes she had 6 years ago. She started pitching some nonsense about how her family and my stepfather failed her when the 14-year-old, me at that time, had taken on the workload of an adult. I have raised my younger siblings minus Baby since I was a child. When the strokes happened I ended up having to raise and take care of her too. She kept saying that Baby is her kid, and she's so upset that we would go behind her back and not consult her because she knows more than us about him. She ended up blocking most of us, then proceeded to make another Facebook group with my boyfriend, bro's fiancé, Sis's husband, and a bunch of family members telling them to support her kids but don't get involved, and that it's time for dad to pay for everything he's done the last 24 years. She then proceeded to turn off all service to my, bro's, and Buddy's phones. We're on a family plan, while Buddy was at wrestling practice at school. She turned her anger onto Buddy, and was telling him he's an adult and if he doesn't do things her way then he's in trouble, going as far as telling him he can rent the laundry room to use to wash his own laundry if he forgets his clothes in the dryer, and sending him text pages of chores for him to have done by the time she got home, and he told her that he'd do it when he got home from wrestling practice. She got home at 1 a.m. and yelled at him until 4 a.m., and then he got up for school 2 hours later. She harassed him throughout the school day, and when he got home told him he had until 11 p.m. to get his stuff and get out of her house. Sis went and picked him up, he got anything he needed and wanted, and he now lives with me and Sis. Crunt then went into the family group chat and basically told the family we put her in a corner, so she attacked back, casually leaving out the part where she was texting bro's fiancé telling her that we are the a-holes. She put in for an emergency hearing for baby to the court, saying that he has been without medicine and care, even though we not only have refilled his medicine when needed, we have set up his new doctors as well. Dad's lawyer said that she has no legs to stand on, especially since she hasn't had contact with him in 12 years, and Crunt even admitted that in one of her texts to us, which was of course submitted as evidence against her. So now the three of us have to appear in court against her. I'll update y'all when that happens. Sorry for the length, this is the best I could do to summarize. Thanks for reading. Edit. I hope these paragraphs are a little more defined. Entitled Mom Gets Mad in the Men's Change Room. Context. I'm a pretty avid swimmer and I've been looking forward to getting back to the pool now that restrictions are loosening up where I am. At the moment, they make everyone enter the pool by going through the family change room, then you exit through the men or women's change room. They've staggered the swim end time so there's not too many people in the change rooms at once. Well, on this particular day, the kids' swim lessons ended about 15 minutes before my open swim time finished. I suppose since there was only kids in the change room, the EM decided to go into the men's change room with her son after the swim was over. I suppose she lost track of time because 15 minutes later, myself and a couple other men entered the change room. Nobody really said anything, and I didn't really think anything of it, since I figured she'd be long gone by the time I get back from the showers. Well, I come back from the shower wrapped in a towel, and she's still there helping her son. They happen to be right next to my locker, so I decide whatever, I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it, plus I gotta get going. So as normal, I take off my towel and start drying off when I hear a loud gasp, and this is how the conversation goes. EM, oh my god, seriously? Can't you see I'm right here? Me, what? EM, I don't want to see your peonies. Me, this is the men's locker room, I'm doing you a favor by not saying anything. EM, well the family change room is closed so you need to be respectful of the moms that need to come in here. Me, why not take him to the women's change room? EM, he's above the age of being allowed in the women's. Me, aren't you above the age of being allowed in the men's? EM, pure rage, I'm his mom, now please cover up. At this point I decide to just ignore her and keep doing my own thing while she keeps giving me dirty looks the whole time. And on her way out she says, next time, I'm gonna report you to the staff. Okay crazy lady, okay. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments.